Thomas Hall's slave narrative. African American slavery in the United States ended in 1865. In the 1930s, the U.S. federal government sent interviewers to interview African Americans who were previously enslaved before they died. This was called the Federal Writers Project. By the time they were interviewed, they were either in their 70s, 80s, 90s, or 100s. Many of those who were still alive told their story, and sometimes their pictures were taken. This is the story of Thomas Hall. My name is Thomas Hall, and I was born in Orange County, North Carolina, on a plantation belonging to Jim Woods, whose wife, or mistress, was named Polly. I'm 81 years of age, and I was born February 14, 1856. My father, Daniel Hall, and my mother, Becky Hall, and me, we all belonged to the same man, but it was often the case that this was not true, as one man, perhaps a Johnson, could own the husband, and a Smith could own the wife. Each slave went by the name of the slave owner's family. In such cases, the children usually went by the name of the family to which the mother belonged. Getting married and having a family was a joke in the days of slavery, as the main thing in allowing any matrimony among the slaves was to raise more slaves in the same sense and for the same purpose as stock raisers raise horses and mules, that is, for work. A woman who could produce fast was in great demand and brought a good price on the auction block in Richmond, Virginia, Charleston, South Carolina, and other places. The food in most cases that was given to the slaves was not given to them for their pleasure or by a cheerful giver, but for the simple and practical reason that children would not grow into being a large and healthy slave unless they were well fed and clothed, and given good, warm places in which to live. Conditions and rules were bad, and the punishments were severe and barbarous. Some masters acted like savages. In some instances, slaves were burned at the stake. Families were torn apart by selling. Mothers were sold from their children. Children were sold from their mothers, and the father was not considered in any way as a part of the family. These conditions were here before the Civil War, and the conditions, in a changed sense, have been here ever since. The whites have always held the slaves in part slavery, and are still practicing the same things on them in a different manner. Whites lynch, burn, and persecute the Negro race in America yet, and there is little they are doing to help them in any way. Lincoln got the praise for freeing us, but did he really do it? He gave us freedom without giving us any chance to live to ourselves, and we still had to depend on the Southern white man for work, food, and clothing, and he held us through our necessity and want, in a state of servitude, but little better than slavery. Lincoln did but little for the Negro race, and from living standpoint, nothing. White folks are not going to do nothing for Negroes except keep them down. Harriet Beecher Stowe, the writer of Uncle Tom's Cabin, did that for her own good. She had her own interests at heart, and I don't like her, Lincoln, or none of the crowd. The Yankees helped free us, so they say, but they let us be put back into slavery again. When I think of slavery, it makes me mad. I do not believe in giving you my story because with all the promises that have been made, the Negro is still in a bad way in the United States. No matter in what part he lives, it's all the same. Now, you might be all right, but there are very few white men who are. Now, the pressure is such from your white friends that you will be compelled to talk against us and give us the cold shoulder when you are around them, even if your heart is right toward us. You are going around to get a story of slavery conditions and the persecution of Negroes before the Civil War and the economic conditions concerning them since that war. You should have known before this day all about that. Are you going to help us? No, you are only going to help yourself. You say that my story may be put into a book, that you are from the Federal Writers Project. Well, the Negro will not get anything out of it, no matter where you are from. Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. I didn't like her book, and I hate her. No matter where you are from, I don't want you to write my story because the white folks have been and are now and always will be against the Negro. If you'd like to hear more slave narratives, please subscribe and click the notification bell to be notified when they're uploaded. You can also log on to my online bookstore, burksbooks.com, and purchase my ebook that has pictures of real slaves and tells many other slave narratives.